says, because it's
Late.
the
Late.
Michigan Bros Grow Show, episode 225. What's up, everybody? Cheers, chat. Cheers, everyone. Got a panel tonight. Dankman Dan. We got Nut Tree 420. Red and Becca from Rosemary's Oasis joining us.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where my boy Spartan is, but he might be in a hot discussion on the cheap home grow. Who knows?
Doing
Chat,
another
what's up?
giveaway over there, aren't they? Probably.
Oh, maybe they're doing that.
I don't know what time they're doing that.
He's
But
eating a nice beverage in between shows, so maybe he's using the facilities and beveraging up some
Yeah.
warm liquids. It's Christmas time. Maybe it's a
What's
hottie
the
or
It's
a
Christmas next weekend?
Yeah,
or
next
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yeah, so we probably won't even have a show next Sunday.
is going on. So
And then
it's beautiful beverage. Maybe it's just a warm water with some candy.
warm water. Who here drinks warm water? Raise your hand. Like you prefer warm, like room temperature?
No, like hot, like
Oh, that is weird. I've never heard that.
In it with stuff in it. He doesn't just drink hot water.
well. I mean,
Well, that's like a tea.
I'll start with lemon, and by the time I finish warming it up every 3 minutes, it ends up being just water, and I'm just sipping on warm water. But it's usually like ginger water or I have one over here.
Is that a room temperature water?
Well,
Which is that?
now, but if it gets like halfway down, I like to heat it back up with some boiling water, and it's just drinking. It keeps you warm this time of year. Keep the furnace down, right? Let all your energy run your grow room.
I like cold water.
So, tons of energy running our grow rooms. Might as well turn down the old thermostat and let the grow room cool down a little bit. So turn down the thermostat. What was this at? 67?
How do we got to the thermostat?
Sometimes we put it at 65.
So you base your thermostat off of your drinking?
No, those are not related.
I got my thermostat
You have
turned
to
down.
think about it, though.
We have our
Wait.
thermostat turned down right now based on because we're in drying mode right now in the basement. We just chopped yesterday some plants, and we have in our tent trying to keep it about 60 degrees downstairs. It's probably 65-ish, I'd guess, maybe. So not too bad.
So what'd you turn your house down to?
60. It's on economy mode, which if it gets above 65, I think it turns on the heat. So it's like
Holy fuck! And you're in a t-shirt?
And I know I did.
Now that's
At least-
dedication to the plant, man.
That is.
It's only 10 days, or so. And then
Yeah.
we'll pick it back up. But
So
I have an issue with too dry.
yeah, when we're running the furnace, it definitely tends to dry a little
for
faster.
sure,
I'm just
yeah,
being dry in the winter.
yeah.
My house is 33 to 35% right now.
Yeah, and we've been home because of everything going on. We have been taking care of the pup, and I went out there for the last time on like Tuesday, to check on everything. And we have I was able to get most of our stuff here to get taken care of for the event, but God, man, I mean, we still got some stuff hanging up, and it's like getting a little crispy. I don't have it.
Yeah, I got the seed run luckily, but it's the seed run, so I'm like, man, hopefully it is crispy so I can easily get seeds. But like, I know what you mean. It's like, do I put a humidifier in a fucking dry room?
So if you can get it fucked down without falling apart, it's kind of tough sometimes getting it off.
Yeah.
Without it falling apart when it's really dry like that. But if you can get it bucked down and put into a container of some sort, what I like to do is I'll go put it back into the veg space with the lights off because it's nice and humid in there, and I'll crack the lid.
Yeah.
And it'll rehydrate that weed for you. You just need a couple hours. So if you try using a humidity pack or my favorite method is to take a jar. Okay, if I got you have a tote or a bucket, whatever you keep your bulk stash in, your cured stash. I'll take a jar, whatever size jar, per container size. You know what I mean? Use a glass if you want to, but I take a wet paper towel put it down inside that glass, and I take that glass and I put it inside my bucket or my tote. And you don't really want to tip it over. You don't want to spill it. The object is the glass is preventing the wet paper towel from getting your weed wet, right? While you're putting something moist inside of there, and what will happen is that will homogenize. That humidity inside that paper towel will homogenize within the container, and so you'll actually rehydrate your can. But that'll take a day or two.
Yeah.
Stuff in the veg room, it's like 70-75% humidity.
That's like, you remember when they used to, you'd hear somebody be like, "Oh, you got a bag of dry weed, just put a lemon slice or orange slice in there, because it would hydrate it and it'll give it flavor." It's like, yeah.
We didn't know.
Microbes.
Yeah.
We didn't know. Lettuce, we did a lot of lettuce.
Throw some lettuce in there. I got a bucket right now, a 5-gallon bucket that's a little dry. I noticed when I was making a couple pre-rolls a little bit ago, so I might have to try that, Red. Put a paper towel in there and cover.
Yeah, wet paper towel, and then so I used to just use a plastic bag, like a Ziploc bag, right? That's just make sure the outside is dry. You don't want to have any drips of water on the outside of either your container, jar, baggie, whatever you're using. You don't want to get your weed wet. Once you get your weed wet, you're going to run into a mold issue. You just want to have something wet inside of something dry.
Yep.
And then that acts as your humidifier, and then that goes into your container. And you don't want to leave it in there for a week. You're gonna end up with soggy weed again. You don't want that. You just want to rehydrate, get enough moisture back into the container, then you pull that out and then leave it for however long, another 24 hours or whatever, and it just rehydrates. You get it back to that sponginess. You'd be surprised at what you can rejuvenate over a period of time. In to the point where like you were drying improperly and you've already lost flavor, you're not going to bring flavor back into it. You're going to bring just
smokability.
But as long as you dried it appropriately, slowly, it may have gotten a little too dry, but at least it wasn't hot and dry. Cool and dry is a lot better than hot and dry, right? Cool and dry, I tend to find you really can get your flavor back. Hot and dry, the terpenes are volatile. But cool and dry, you're just getting below that moisture level point. You can kind of bring some of that back into that bud. You know what I mean?
So would you say the hot and dry would express more of that hay, that grass?
Hot, dry. Yeah, okay. So hot, dry, hay, grass, but also not dry enough. You know what I mean? If you seal off your weed, you can have the best, terpiest flavored weed stored at the best temperature, stored at a cool temperature, so those trichomes aren't evaporating. But if you put wet weed in a container, if your weed's got any kind of moisture to it, you seal it off and you close it up for 3-4 days thinking that it's going to homogenize or anything like that, well, you're going to create more of a hay smell than anything. And I have found that can be reversed if you catch it in time. And if you go, oh shit, it's too wet, it's too moist, you need to do something. You need to air it out. You need to put it out on screens. You need to get some of that moisture up off the bud. You need to maybe break it down into a couple of containers. Maybe you have too much weed stored in the same container, something, but you need to get the moisture out of the bud as much as you can to not make it too dry. You know what I mean? So start a better, correct drying process. Summertime, you might really need to get a dehumidifier. You know what I mean? It can be impossible to dry your stash. Like it may not even ever dry depending on the humidity of just your.
Yeah. And then 10-day dries can turn into, if you're having a hard time to battle them, environmental conditions can turn into 14, 17 days sometimes.
And in the wintertime in Michigan, we don't have any humidity in the air. For some reason, maybe the lakes freeze. I don't know what happens. We just lose the humidity. You think that we'd keep our humidity. And a warm day, today was raining. Now that's the other thing. A lot of times you'd be surprised that you're like, oh shit, it's too dry in my grow room. But then we have a couple rainy days and all of a sudden the humidity in the grow room goes back up to 60%. And then your cannabis just fluffs back up. So you get these ebb and flows of good and bad throughout the wintertime, but still a humidifier is best practice. It's another port of failure, another port of management, another port of other things to go wrong. So we just don't use them yet because we don't have the capabilities to manage it properly. But Otherwise,
So if you had to run a humidifier, would you run a cool mist or one of them warm mist humidifiers?
I would probably do something indirectly away from the plants and just let it get cycled throughout the room. So some sort of like probably a cool mist.
Okay.
Something that's just going to be using basic air bubble, stuff like that, fogger style material, and then just put a little bit into the air and let it go. Problem is that stuff needs water, so you usually got to have it hooked up to a water line or
requires
something.
maintenance, yeah.
Gravity feed, yeah. So
Cleaning.
A lot of the products that I've seen that are of more of a home scale, those old dome foggers, and so I just don't trust those to like that float valve inside those things. You know what I mean? You're gonna
just points for failure,
and run my well dry if that thing goes off, so and we can't get to the farm in a week, you know what I mean? Something like that break, a float valve breaks or something, and we can't get to the farm in a week, we'll fucking run our well dry. So I would rather just get out there and every so often and be able to do that. Now typically, you don't want to leave your grow room for that long amount of time. These are obviously emergency scenarios. For those talking about, we're going through just a little bit of grieving, that whole thing. We had to put DOG down. You won't hear him crying anymore. So
it's unfortunate. Sorry, Red.
It is very super sad. But honestly, we're very, very blessed to have such a community that we do have. And it's really keeping our heads up, and everybody has been really helping us. So that's the main reason we haven't been to the farm. Last time I was there was last Tuesday. I had to get back home as soon as I could to help take care of DOG. He just was unable to get up and get out of the house on his own by this time last week.
And I couldn't carry him, so it made it really challenging.
So he was just crying and crying and crying. Becca couldn't get him up, get him out. I had to get home and pick him up, walk him outside, let him stand there, do his business, and hold him up for most of it. That's what happens with our furry friends when they get older, and we do what we did and try to keep them alive as long as possible. They eventually just start to fall apart, and I don't regret it.
It's tough, and they're in a better place now. So
yeah, absolutely. He's
not suffering.
The whole community got to hear his voice many, many times over the years, and I'm really thankful for everybody who held out. You know what I mean? They included him with the show. It wasn't like, "Hey, shut your dog off, Red." You know what I mean? Everybody was really allowed him to be very inclusive. So, and all the love that we have gotten through social media, and we did an event at the Fledge. We had a Third Eye Craft Affair yesterday, and her and I did not know how we were going to hold up. Honestly, it was very difficult. We took him in and laid him down on Friday, and we were still in the middle of trying to get stuff prepared. So we came home and were able to stay busy doing that. And then, of course, all day Saturday, yesterday, we were able to stay busy with the community. And I just want to thank everybody who has reached out, who has shown support, who has given us amazing gifts. 321 Genetics hooked us up with, a big old fat, I think this is a quarter. It's 8 grams, 8-gram Michigan quarter, Point Break. Barton hooked us up with a fat doobie that we're going to fire up here for you guys. Snozberries hooked us up with a Mac
1.
Shout out, Not Your Grandma 313. And
oh, you summoned them. Fucking mystic.
Oh, here. Let me get this on. Spartan Grown. I was shouting you out for this fantastically rolled doobie. And what strain do we have the pleasure of firing up here in a moment?
That's going to be Orange Gasm.
Orange Gasm. Fuck yeah, dude.
It smells so good.
I was thinking.
No, I'm sorry. It's not Orange Gasm. What am I talking about? It's Orange.
Yeah.
Drink.
I was like, orange.
I was thinking it was Trop something. It really smelled. It smells orangey. It smells hazy too, and I think that it's a perfect.
So what it is, Red, as you might be really familiar, might bring back a little memories. It's Jilly Bean. So it's an old Jilly Bean. It's an old Jilly Bean cross to Micanopy.
Well, Well, you'd be
Yeah.
pleased to know that one of DOG's favorite strains is Jilly Bean, the throwback. And he's
Oh, there we go. See, it's fucking destiny, man. That's
Yeah, it was
awesome.
meant to be.
when I first started moving a little bit of doing the caregiver patient side by side hustle back in the day, trying to be the mediator between the caregiver and the patient, and hopeful to become the caregiver myself, and fortunately was able to. I guess in that sense, I was a caregiver, and I did get signed up as a caregiver, but I wasn't growing anything. I was just kind of sourcing from other caregivers as well, doing the pyramid thing that was actually quite legal at the time. So it was really nice. And that was one of the main strains that would come through. And that was right around the same time that DOG and I had met. So it was really cool. I also got to give a big shout out to Gamer Gardens. He hooked us up with some fruits. Thank you, Gamer, very much. All the love has been shown. Schnozberry, Not Your Grandma 313 also hooked me up with a beautiful tie-dye. I will have to show that off as well. Guys, if you're in the mood for tie-dye, check out her shop. And I would say at the Fledge at Third Eye Muse Craft Fair, but what's her shop? Do you know it on Etsy off the top of your head?
No.
That's cool.
She's in chat.
What was your guy? I'm just jumping in, but what was the turnout for you guys? It seemed like it was pretty busy again this time around, just like last time.
I don't know if we should say numbers specifically.
As opposed to last time, what would you say? Was it more or less?
Higher. And
higher? Wow, that's
last time was the highest. So basically record breaking back to back. So thank you, community. It seems like Saturdays, Spartan, this is really good.
Nice, man.
Seems like Saturdays are a good day to do it. And I like Saturdays because we don't have to get home and immediately rush to like get on the show and stuff like that from a Sunday.
Yeah.
We can actually spend our Sunday doing Sunday things. I like that whole take a day and leave it for resting and for family, or just leaving it not doing necessarily projects, not having a project day and just having a day of rest. That is very nice. But yeah, I really appreciate everybody in chat. I thank you all for reaching out, and it's been a tough couple weeks. I know last week we said that DOG was on the mend and he was coming back, and he was, and then his arm gave out and something happened to it, front arm, and all of a sudden he was no longer able to hold himself up. He was using his front arms for everything. So after that happened, and then we think that he was having more strokes. He just wasn't able to stand. So it was bittersweet, in the very end, and he's with us always, and this DV is definitely for him. And everybody, please share some smoke clouds in chat and fire one up for him. 2 days night session is dedicated to that lovely voice that we always hear in the background. Mm-hmm. It's usually shutting us up from over speaking. So
it's gonna be a miss. Rebecca, my condolences. It's hard, man. I saw one of my, high school buddies tonight who was in town just for a quick trip. And I couldn't help but think about you guys, because it's like, he was your best friend. They are definitely, your best friend. They're more than that. They're family. And it's one of the hardest things to do, but, sometimes it's the decision you have to make, and it's for the better. And, my condolences. I feel for you guys.
Thanks, guys. I just have like a moment to share about it, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want it to be triggering for anybody. It's a hard topic. We all love our fur balls. You know what I mean? It's very tough. I'm holding it back as it is. It's been very tough, but I'm honestly so emotionally drained. I'm all like cried out at this point. All I love to do is celebrate now, and it's a great celebration of life. And I just want to share that DOG was almost 15 years old, and I've known him for over 14 years of my life. I'm only 38 years old, so it's more than a third of my life.
More than a third, yeah,
has been dedicated to caring for and being cared by him. And some of the greatest moments of my life are shared, such as purchasing this house, this yard, this property, the farm, having many places for him to explore, to smell, eat rabbits. Some of you may remember those stories. All kinds of stuff, you know. And over the years, he's gotten me out of tons of trouble. I wrote a little bit about it on Instagram about how I almost moved downtown Detroit on a failed business adventure. And truth be told, that was a very reckless point in my life that I didn't share publicly on Instagram, but I'll share. I was in and out of taking pharmaceutical, you know, opioid things like that. And I'm actually really lucky that I didn't end up accidentally taking something with fentanyl in it. It was right at the beginning of the fentanyl. Many of my friends were extremely addicted to opioids, and I lost quite a few of them to that. And I just really thank DOG for giving me responsibility and pulling me out of those hard times, those reckless times of my life, giving me a little bit something more to think about. You know, I was in and out of relationships. Obviously, I love my family, my parents, and I have something to live for. But he really made me have something to feel responsible for. And that bit of responsibility kept me working harder and allowed me to grow my life, my love, find Becca and things like that. But he was also with me during the wonderful pandemic of 2020, where I was alone for a couple years. You know, I was engaged and she left, and so he and I were alone, and I felt incredibly bummed out because he was upset, you know what I mean? And so he got me through that really, really difficult time in my life, met Becca, and then thankfully he allowed Becca to come into this equation that he and I had, because he was deemed a vicious animal, guys. He had gotten into some scraps. He had a record, a little bit of a track record. He was considered a felony. He would have been considered a felon. Had he have had any other incidents, it would have been neglect, and I would have been a felon. So there was a lot of patience dealt with on my end and his end over the years. And I just really appreciate the universe for allowing it all to work out the way that it did, and for everything to have just manifested and happened and worked out, man. Because it's been a fantastic fucking 15 years, man. It's been wild. And like I said, bittersweet. You know, my dad made the realization to me the other day that I have been literally tied down since being an adult to some sort of that responsibility. And it's almost as long as having a child and then waiting until they're a grown teenager and leaving the nest at 18 years old. You know, 15 years is a very long time. So I feel that. I feel you parents out there who have children and they leave the nest. And, you know, so Becca and I are going to take a little break. We're going to go on some vacations. We're going to get the fuck out of town, go to Petoskey, do some stuff for the holidays, and get in the woods, and then do whatever. You know, go to some festivals. We're going to rest. And I invite everybody else out there to do the same. You know, you get through something heavy or hard, make the best out of it and go treat yourself. You're worth it. Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate you all. And cheers to DOG. He hooked us up.
Well, if you guys don't have New Year's Eve plans, it sounds like we might be able to get together then. Maybe we should make some plans.
Yeah, we're down. We have the Fledge on the 30th, guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Craft affair.
Raise your hand if you're going to be there.
Not gotten a chance to be back out.
Not sure.
It gives me a reason to check the pet store.
Exactly.
We went there this weekend.
Yeah, that's why I came. I'm not going out there if we can't go to the pet store. That's absurd.
There's a market that I just saw advertised called Horrocks or something like that. So I have this great desire to create, and I believe Becca has the same desire. I don't know. I want to say we, but I don't want to speak for her on this one. So,
Okay, is it okay if he lets everyone know your desires?
Well, it's always in this like apothecary, right? I was in this herb shop in Ann Arbor one time. They had all this weird shit. They had mushrooms. They had all echinacea and all weird shit. I was like, it'd be really cool to have that. Plus,
I think that's badass, dude. I do.
Have some weed in there, you know, and then weed came around and was being legal. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect, you know. So this is my idea of the micro business, you know. Well, either way, you know, I have this grand desire to have like an apothecary, you know, and over the years it's changed on what types of products would be great to have in there, but I'm leaning more towards having food products. And what I really love is these grocery these apothecaries that cater food, you know, so it's really cool. Now, Harrods or Herrick's? Horrocks isn't an apothecary. It's a grocery, but it's a more of a boutique grocery type spot where it's local, you know, and that's the great thing about when we bring our art and supplies to the market, we have our little head shop. That's really what I consider. A lot of people will only bring their cannabis products. They'll just have jars of weed, or they'll just have a couple of things. I really like the idea of having a little storefront and a little shop, and it's kind of a long-term passion to have. So we have art. We have Ashley from Tube Socks. We have her stained glass. She's from Toledo, so regionally local to us. We also have glass art from many different local artists in the area, and many other artists' work, including pendants that I like to make, art that Becca will be making. We have dried flowers right here that we're going to really do some work with, that Becca has a lot of ideas for. We're artists in heart, and we want to showcase our art as well. So it's not just specifically a cannabis endeavor. It is apothecary. So it's health products. And a lot of what health products are is, you know, if something, candles, anything that might make art is definitely something that makes you feel good. It's something that might brighten up your space and give you a mental clarity. You know what I mean? So any of that type of stuff to me, like subjectively speaking, is healthful and mindful, and it promotes mindfulness, and it promotes just happiness. You know what I mean?
It's helpful too is that you're just plants, so you could still probably fall under the roadside stand laws, which, you know, as a homesteader you have in Michigan, you have the ability to have just a roadside stand and be able to sell all of those.
Absolutely do. Yeah. And what's really cool is a lot of like homemade goods. You can totally do that. You can sell bundles of wood. You can sell all that kind of stuff. Now you are limited at, I believe, $25,000. Anything more than that, I believe you need to start having some sort of license, food service.
I'll take 25K on the side. I'm good with that.
Exactly. So it's a good hobby on the side. Fortunately, we have our commercial property that we really want to turn into a small grocery store. And really, like, it's difficult to say, like, have the difference. Like, we really want to do an apothecary, we really want to do a grocery store. So it's somewhere between the middle is kind of the idea. Having local, you know, food. Let's say it's cheese, you know, have local cheese, but also have herbs and witch's brew, you know, whatever, you know, weird bookstore shit. You know what I mean? The strange and awkward oddities types of store. You know what I mean? All the, you know, there's a weird dead cat in the corner. You know, that type of place. You know, that type
Like a
of
taxidermy one?
Well, honestly, a lot of the
No, just laying there.
use. You know what I mean? Somebody wants to use it. You know, okay, not that weird.
a lot of that stuff is just plants too. You know, a lot of the stuff that they use is just plants. So
And that's
100%
nursery stock is on the top of the list, you know. And for the sake of the show, definitely hemp clones and cannabis clones. Anything that we would be able to sell and get through maybe the Grade Loop system, we absolutely would. You know, but most certainly the other medicinal plants, you know, even food plants and plenty of herbs, you know. And when you think of medicinal plants, valerian and echinacea and even rose and all of these other beautiful botanicals that help us heal and actually could be used to help biodiversity. Think IPM, think permaculture, just any of that kind of stuff, promoting soil health. And I really like the idea of local supply. So in the name of, like, you know, having a storefront and selling things like plants, obviously it would be nursery related, something like that. We would love to have people like, you know, Country Roots make soil. So we'd love to have their stuff. And, you know, Detroit Worm Company would rather have their worm cast. So like stuff like that, everything would be local, you know. And local supply is I don't know how great of a business plan it is or a business model. As long as it's sustainable, I would be very happy with being inclusive and just having a outlet for entrepreneurs to be able to collaborate and move their products, you know, legally without having to deal with, you know, whatever restrictions there are out there, you know, because fucking hell. I love the idea of CSA that farmers are able to do around here, or selling live animals rather than the dead animal, because you can't sell a dead animal. There's some great information through people like Joel Salatin, who's, he's kind of coined himself the lunatic farmer, but he gives great, libertarian anarchist advice about how to beat around the bush, so to speak, with those bureaucracies in things like farming. And so you can utilize, like in our legal state, we have the gifting to 21 and over. If you can utilize any of that language and figure out how to apply it to what other farmers are doing to sort of chase the tail with the bureaucracy of, FDA, USDA, and all that kind of stuff, you can apply it to your legal status state, so to speak. Talk with your lawyer. I do not provide legal advice. I only like to connect dots and do that kind of stuff. So, it was nice meeting Joel.
9/11.
Meeting Joel Salatin was really cool, because he was able to, I was able to see how a conventional food farmer would react to the presence, in a Christian, someone who lives in kind of the Bible Belt of the East type of an area. All of his customers and family and everybody, they're, very, I would suppose, I don't know what to say, probably not with Ken. I don't want to say square or like, not hip or anything, but like, I would imagine them to kind of, stuff their nose up at cannabis consumers. And he was kind of all about cannabis. He was like, yeah, you guys are chasing some pretty hefty restrictions and regulations. And, he was applauding our fight, basically, from even the conventional side of food. So it was really cool to see. I'd really love to see the networks between the two get combined, because there is a very big similarity between food medicine and cannabis medicine. Especially when you get into like hemp and agriculture and all that kind of stuff, that's a clear, there it is. But like, when you dive deeper into regulation and who's trying to control the regulation, big money, big corporations, things like that, well, then it all really makes sense that we really have not each other to blame for anything. Like, there's no competition with land. We shouldn't be competing there. We should be competing with, who is preventing us from being sustainable. That's the big fight, so it's really cool to see people collaborating with food in cannabis. It's awesome to see that nowadays, because there was a time where it was very, a lot of growers would not want to put bugs or other plants near their cannabis plants. That was just like, you're going to infect your cannabis plants, Nowadays it's like, well, let's create great gardens. And I'm being tapped because I'm talking a lot. So that's.
I just want to dab. I just want to do a dab.
Oh, you're trying
just
to turn
wants to
the
hit that
torch on.
torch. Yeah. Dude, Red, I want nothing
Yeah, you
more
pulled
than
that out a while
to.
ago.
She has been holding on to that. The Bogart and the torch, I guess.
Like,
just floating over there, that giant red thing. I want nothing more, Red, than to own a farm to table restaurant that is also including cannabis somehow.
Cannabis farm,
Yeah, but I do love Joel Salatin's website and his bio on his website, polyfacefarms.com. It says Joel Salatin, 65, calls himself a Christian, libertarian, environmentalist, capitalist, lunatic farmer. And then down a couple paragraphs, it says he co-owns with his family Polyface Farms in Swoop, Virginia, featured in the New York Times bestseller Omnivore's Dilemma and award-winning documentary Food Inc. I'm sure a lot of us have seen that. The farm services more than 5,000 families, 50 restaurants, 10 retail outlets, and a farmer's market with a salad bar, beef, pigerator, pork, pastured poultry, and forestry products. I mean, how freaking fun does that sound?
Yeah, you got to look more into him on YouTube. He has tours and stuff, all of his farm, and it's flipping sweet. Like the goal, the dream that,
he's got like 6 businesses. He's authored 12 books.
Totally unlicensed.
Yeah.
The dude's awesome.
All
the dude's fucking all membership style.
We met him and we shook his hand, and he was asking us what we did. And we're like, oh, we're cannabis farmers. And just the look on his face, like he hadn't really seen too much of that. but he
He's
was
like,
willing
"Oh,
to talk. He was,
okay."
like, interested.
He was like, "So
Yeah.
how does that work up there?" We're
we're
like,
at
"It's really tough."
The Homestead Festival in Tennessee, where it's, you know, not that chill.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
a lot
fun.
of the Christian types
They're cool.
and more red Christian types, not the
Definitely Bible Belt zone.
yeah.
Christian's a Christian in my book.
And it was
There's Christian and there's holy rollers.
I would just say that I had a green Billy String shirt on, you know. Becca and I stood out like fucking bleeding sore thumbs, dude. It was wild. It was pretty funny. There was maybe a couple other people with long hair ponies. Some of the like speakers and like promoters and
At
stuff.
a Homestead Festival?
Hippies.
You would think that, yeah.
Well, that's what we thought. We were like,
this guy's crowd. That's the difference.
it was, but I think where it was like
Yeah.
it's in mid Kentucky.
Yeah, mid Kentucky, yeah.
See, we stayed in Kentucky. That's what it was. So it was mid
Oh.
Tennessee, but it was actually
Same,
West Tennessee. So
same
It's like a
area.
big family.
not
type.
like near Asheville. You know what I mean? It was like on the west end of Tennessee. So like mostly conventional farmer types were showing up. It was at Roy Feek's farm.
Mhm.
What?
Close. Rory
Feek's farm.
Who's that?
Because I'm a country singer. I
Oh,
clearly don't know.
yeah.
So, yeah, there's Daddy Red. Cheers, Daddy Red.
Cheers.
Cheers for all the support, emotional, physical, everything. Daddy Red helped us last week get our hot water heater in and out of here. And, dude, they showed up
You got a new one?
on time and helped us with support. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah, new hot water heater.
I need one, I think. But
It's good.
I'm going to try to save up for one of those fancy tankless ones.
Yeah, they're not that bad. They're
not. I know. So, like, I'm just, yeah. And then I got a spot on the wall right there. So.
Oh, yeah.
We got one at work, and I'm like, man, this thing's kind of nice.
Do it.
But, yep.
For Growley, how was the event you went to this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Ha ha ha.
Oh,
What is the ha ha ha?
yeah.
So this is the second Detroit event in a row that I've gone to in the last approximately year that has been shut down by the fire department.
Oh, what?
Jeez. You were at that
It
one?
didn't even happen. Like it didn't even start off.
It was an hour and 20 minutes into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did they
And then
handle that? They just asked people to leave.
Well, let's tell the story.
Okay, I'm very interested.
Yeah.
So let's start with Friday night, just to put it in perspective. I know Red and Becca for sure have experienced this. I'm sure Dinkman Dan is as well at this point. You have this night before the event where you kind of panic to try to get everything prepared. And I've made this decision to start a Friday night podcast that starts at 11 p.m. and ends at 1 a.m. on Saturday.
Oh, it's such a good show too. Just
well, thank you.
Okay.
I hope it's worth it for everybody else.
it is.
There's been three events on Saturday in which have happened after this show since I've started it, and they've been all pretty challenging. This most recent one, I'm still looking at the mostly scraped jars. I left myself quite a bit of some of these. A lot of that packaging was done Saturday morning. That's how, kind of
Rushed.
it wasn't procrastination. It was just the timing of things. It's how it works with growing, right? It's sometimes you don't get to really set the schedule to some extent. And so I was up late Friday night. I was up early Saturday morning. I left, I don't know what time it was, but probably 9 in the morning or so to get down to the event by 10:30, which is pretty much, I think, what I was told the earliest vendors could check in. I get down, it's on, it's in Detroit, and it's not in the best of areas. And it's always interesting, having events in Detroit that's like a new venue. And this time it was a I don't know how to describe it other than an old industrial building that you had to drive down an alleyway to access. That was just a giant cinder block.
You go
Open.
one way in, one way out.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
I don't like
Oh
that.
yeah.
I
Oh
don't
yeah,
like
dude.
that at all.
Oh yeah, I know. They had people at the road, directing traffic. They had plenty of licensed and insured, from my understanding, armed security. I mean, every single one of these dudes was me plus 6 inches and 100 pounds. It was wild. It was like I was hanging out with, Detroit Lions.
Remind me to
Yeah.
tell you guys about. Yeah, there's a lot of robberies lately.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah. I got some stories about that too, but or some tips maybe. I don't know. So anyways, yeah, one way, kind of road. Plenty enough parking, big, tall fencing and stuff. It was a cold building. So it was interesting because it was actually sunny out on Saturday and unseasonably warm lately, of course, in Michigan. And so it was like, 55, 58 degrees outside, maybe like 62 with the sun hitting you. And it's like 48 in this building, just cement floors, all that, just an abandoned Detroit building, hey, at least we're doing something with it, right? So vendors are setting up. There's maybe 30, 35 vendors. I'm probably like the third, fourth one there. So of course I just do my thing and I set up right next to the entrance. You know me. Like I want to be the first one you see, the last one you see. I want to be the first one out, first one in for last, first one out.
Yeah.
And plus I get to hang out with the security guard the whole time, so so I set up. It takes me over an hour to get down there. It takes me over an hour to set up. The event starts, there's a good line. There's 50, 60, 80 people maybe in line at least, probably, before the event starts. Everyone starts flowing in, have a good time. An hour and 20 minutes into it, one of the security guards walks up right behind me, and I'm sure I'm one of the first person he tells because I'm right there. And he goes, 12's outside, time to pack up and go. I've heard that before. I've been at events before where the same exact thing has happened, where a security guard walked up to me and said, cops are outside, time to pack up and go. So I know the drill. Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, I'm right there at the door, right? The unfortunate thing is that's pretty much the only entrance. And the fortunate thing is I can get out real quick. Another unfortunate thing is once you get out, good luck getting back in. And once if you're in, good luck getting out. It's so it's a mad rush, right? And it's a shit show. It's just simply a shit show. And it's an unfortunate thing because there was no police there. There was one guy standing there talking to the promoter, who looked like he was a government official. He had the slacks on and the blue collared shirt and a big old badge on his chest. Not a like a metal badge that's clipped on, but like an emblem, sewed in and embroidered into his shirt. You just kind of recognize it. You're like, all right, that's some city county official, right? He's saying he's saying that they don't have any governance over that, but so they the promoter's talking to him, and he's kind of just, the promoter's just yelling at everybody like, sorry, the event has to shut down, permitting issue, blah, blah, blah. And like, as I'm moving out of there, it's kind of like, yeah, I get it. Like, they're not wrong. The fire department who showed up, who's big fire truck coming down this 1-lane road, right? And everyone's trying to get out. Yeah, it's not a good situation for an event like that. It was not a good venue for that. And they're kind of in that way, they're not wrong, because ultimately, according to their regulations, it's not probably a safe spot to do that or whatever. Now, I think the most unsafe part of the entire event was probably caused by them showing up. If they didn't show up, there wouldn't have been any issues, most likely. Can't say that for certain, but I've never experienced issues in the past other than them showing up. But that was it, man. I spent more time preparing. I spent more time driving there and back. And I'm probably going to spend more time talking about it than I actually did vending at this event. And so it's a
Yeah.
really kind of
That's very
unfortunate
unfortunate.
situation for all the vendors. It's an unfortunate situation for a lot of people that were either on the way still, or were making the trip from out of state, or even just from across the state, or from wherever they're coming from.
So is
to
this event
essentially turn away from
rescheduled
it.
or just canceled? And
So this is where I don't really have a whole lot of answers at this point.
okay,
And I don't want to really say one way or another because I don't know.
Yeah.
Now this
There's probably
promoter in
a
the
right
past
way, yeah.
has this promoter in the past, we've experienced the same thing where an event got shut down by the local fire department for one reason or another, and whether or not they actually shut it down or people just kind of panicked and left is, I don't know if that was ever really could make a determination off that. But this promoter has in the past made right when an event had to be drastically changed, not even canceled, but drastically changed due to a weather situation this summer. And
Well,
so
that's
he
stand up,
changed the entire nature of the event, still had the event, and then put out a second event and re-invited all those vendors back, gave free tickets to everyone that had paid for the first event. And they really did right on everybody.
Awesome.
And it was, it was his decision to cancel it too. He could have just said, screw it, everybody set up in the rain and lightning, good luck, but he took that hit there. Now, whether or not he's going to do that for this one, we'll see. Ultimately, I think a similar situation should happen in which if you were a vendor or you paid for a ticket, one way or another, even as a patron, like you should be, whatever the next event is, you should not be paying a dime,
Exactly. Because those situations should have been dealt with.
Yeah, it's on the promoter, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's a permit issue or whatever it is, it's on them.
It also sounds like, and maybe I'm reading more into it, but it sounds like that there wasn't any vendors that got into any kind of trouble or anything over it. So it was nice that they just, everybody get out, and then they just left. If that's all it was, then it's no harm, no foul, I guess.
Right
Well,
on.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that is the fortunate thing is, as far as I'm aware, everyone is safe. Everyone got home safe. No one got hurt. No one got in trouble. You know what I mean? Like it's everything was handled fairly responsibly after the fact, or at least through, as best it could be, I guess. It's just, it's an unfortunate kind of thing that happens.
So I guess the question is, how'd the city find out if it was down some back
bro
at a commercial?
See, this is where you can start getting fun with the conspiracy theories. There was 3 events going on at the same day,
I think there was 4. I think there was another.
There you go.
Did any of the other events have any issues, or was that the only event?
I have no
We
idea.
went to one.
No, what I was wondering, like in Detroit specifically, like were they out specifically in Detroit trying to shut down Detroit events, or was it just kind of a one thing?
The only time I've experienced this, which has been twice, has both been in Detroit. So, and
How dilapidated
like,
is the spot?
I mean, honestly, it was structurally sound. It just wasn't like maybe entry exit, like no working.
I mean, I've been to an event Spartan and I went to, and it was fucking dilapidated building. It was so like.
No, I mean, I walked around this place, so you can tell there was even recent
The
like
Fledge
cement
is in a licensed, like real building on a street with an address.
Dude, Detroit was the rave capital of the world. And
That's what I'm saying. If you're in some, like it's like, well,
it would have been somewhere in between
see why
a
that gets
dilapidated
busted.
building and an addressed licensed, facility.
Yeah.
Europe.
Again, Bake, like that's why I get it from the city's perspective, but there's no way the city finds out about this within an hour and a half of it happening.
Well, I'm just saying why the others in the state didn't get shut down, because probably somebody then related to the event snitched and was like, "Hey, this event's going on."
I mean, right, to each their own on their own conspiracy theory, but
yeah.
my thing was like, how do you how is there a city employee dressed in a collared shirt on a Saturday afternoon showing up to an event,
Right.
and then a fire? Like, yeah, that was
who's doing the cruising on a Saturday to look for like people working on their
Because
deck?
they didn't find out
random
about it
streets like this.
Saturday.
That, you know,
They got way too much going on to be worried, about this kind of thing if they didn't
It's
directly.
literally
know
their
it.
job. So if somebody emails them and is like, blah, 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 they're going to go check on it. They're going to say, hey, Bill, you're working Saturday. You got to go look at
Right.
this thing.
And
Bill shows up and Bill goes, well, we actually have something here.
my
Call
guess,
the boys. Shut it down.
my guess is it was somebody who doesn't want those kind of things to exist that saw the flyer. Is the address?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, it could be anything.
Within 72 hours of the event, it was posted. Reddit wasn't one of those things. He didn't release it until like 2 or 3 days before the event.
3 days before the event's enough time for like some company,
For sure.
to be like, yo, Detroit. So they know him. They know him. Like, like I'll just throw the name out because they keep shutting down places and they're shitheads. Oh, I shouldn't defend. Okay, maybe I won't use that name.
Do it. Name and shame. Name and shame. Name and shame.
So the rhymes with my mint. Will
Sky Mint?
Oh yeah, you said it. So so let's just say that they know somebody downtown. You know what I mean? I'm sure they do. I'm sure they've been talking to those. They've been trying to get Detroit to fucking opt in for 3.
I think they're worried about their budget.
And well, okay, any other shop that's doing it, any other MCMA, put yourself on that list, and you could throw darts at a dartboard and hit any of them. And one of those dudes definitely knows somebody in Detroit City Council willing to call up the city inspector to go shut down the fucking thing going over on the fucking east side or wherever it was happening at. And dude,
well, if it's online, like it's pretty easy to access that information. So
the city officials aren't the ones looking it up though. It's definitely somebody in the cannabis community, somebody who's following those accounts, looking to shut them down, because they're afraid that their market might be getting affected. Hey, have better products. That's what I say. Fucking influence a better market, use your influential power to fucking do something good for the patients instead of leaving the patients out to dry, you know what I mean? And forcing them to come to us. That's what you're doing. That's fine by me. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. I see you. Saw you. They're forcing them. I mean, that's whatever. You know what I mean? It sucks for the fucking patients. You know what I mean? It sucks. They should have open, easy access at these stores. That's what it was supposed to be. We were all supposed to be able to have our little fucking micro business stores and be able to have access. No, instead we have to do this weird underground rave shit. You know what I mean? And then play cops and robbers, not with actual cops and robbers, but with fucking Brads and Chads.
City inspectors.
And like, what the fuck, dude? Like, all we're trying to do is heal people. You know the number of testimonies that we get of our cannabis oil that's very safely made with very safe natural products. You know what I mean? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here, dude. You're fucking insane. Jacking up the price of the fucking same size dart that we give somebody at the same volume is quad fucking price in the store, and they're like justifying they have all of these overheads with taxes and everything. We pay fucking what, you know what I mean? Not taxes, but costs of licensing and everything, which I understand. I get it. Testing's expensive. All that stuff is expensive, but they also helped create the system. You know what I mean? They helped create the shit. So fix it from within, write your white papers that you have been writing. I know these big companies keep writing white papers to the fucking governor. I hear about them doing it all the fucking time. Write some ones that actually fucking make sense, that are about patients and caregivers, and instead of bottom lines and all this other shit. Allow people to have real business plans that work.
As Red, the metric market doesn't care about the patients and the caregivers. They only care about the wreck people, and that's it.
Exactly. And it's
100%.
And it's stupid because they create arbitrary numbers in their rules. The THC, any of the testing values. And the only reason I say THC specifically is because it's the most influential one as far as purchase, a customer purchasing goes.
That's driven by the customer. That's what the customer asked.
That's the problem, Red. Like,
It's required by the state, though. It's required to have.
but Red, if
So
you had a strain that you thought was super tasty, gets you really high, but the package on the seed pack was, you know, Red Star 16, and you loved it, you grew it, and you put it out there, and nobody bought it because they thought 16 was the percent. Like,
the state
you
is
gotta-
still requiring that you put this arbitrary THC number on your package, right? Because you could get tested at 25% THC today, and then the product sits on the shelf for 60 days, and all of a sudden it might be 22% THC, and then it sits on the shelf for, well, I've seen shit sit on the shelf for 18 to 24 months. So where do you think that THC number is now? They don't require again after a given amount of time. So but
it's what Bake's getting at is it's just the customer's perception. That's all that matters. For example, the strain that they have that has 16. There's a strain they have that has 16 in the name.
That's a different conversation. What I'm talking about, though, because I'm talking about the requirement from the state and the bureaucrats. Remember
But I mean, that's like this tiniest font.
You're talking about, but it's a hell of a big law.
But the misinformation in the consumer who's coming in already's head is what's fucking us.
But let's
fucking like terps and actual high.
Practicality. What's more practical? Requiring the THC number that's arbitrary to begin with, or requiring something that should say this has been remediated, or requiring both of those things?
Oh, yeah.
It's all fucking arbitrary. It's all been put together by knuckleheads sitting down that don't know anything about cannabis.
Absolutely.
And then other people who write white papers that are heads of these businesses that also don't know anything about cannabis. Trying to create this system and this government surrounding the laws of cannabis entrepreneurs, where all the cannabis entrepreneurs are the ones that actually know and have been doing the grassroots educating. You know what I mean? We've been doing the
3 minutes hashtag
through. We've been following Dr. Ethan Russo and all of the work coming out of Israel and all of the other areas where cannabis has been studied and researched upon for the last 50 years, where it hasn't been repressed. We got this. It's all of the old caregivers and people that aren't afraid to speak out and say that cannabis is shrinking tumors, because doctors aren't allowed to say it because they'll lose their funding federally. You know what I mean? It's those are the people that know about cannabis, and we do not get to say anything about how these laws should be written, and that the fact that THC value that you put on there to just simply market your cannabis is a requirement by state law. That's arbitrary, and it changes over the path of that 2 years that it sits on the shelf, and now you're just giving misleading information or value to somebody that you want to say this is a medical product. Let's have a medical market, medical cannabis. Let's invite, because doctors are telling patients to go to dispensaries. When we worked at New Standard down the road from an Ann Arbor hospital, we had people coming in there every day saying, yeah, my doctor told me to come to you guys right down the street to get some gummies. And it's like, okay, I get where they're coming from. They want you to go get THC, but this isn't the right type of apothecary that you should be going to get your cannabis at. You shouldn't be eating sugar-filled THC.
Well,
sugar is not the option for first off, but second off, everything about this type of a practical location, they're not trying to market to you. Everything on this shelf is going to be misrepresented by the time you consume it, because all of this data that you're getting forced, all these numbers that you're getting forced, aren't accurate by the time you consume them 6 months after they've been sitting on the shelf. So if you're a patient, like, you shouldn't be going to those type of places to try to source your required medicine if you're not getting accurate information. It'd be one.
I mean, that's like going to Best Buy though, not knowing anything.
Well, it is, but at least they have accurate.
Like, you go do your own Googling before you go buy a $700 TV or something.
That $700 TV that sits on the shelf, the technology might change somewhere else, but it's not going to deteriorate with inside that television. You're still getting a brand new TV, even if you buy it 2 years later. You know what I mean? You could still be informed and educated and get something. The fact is that we are misinforming people with medical ailments. You know what I mean?
Well,
as it is,
That's what I was getting at. Like for Groli,
been
you have
repressed.
the stats on how much medical versus how much recreational is sold.
98.2%, I think, ish is recreational in Michigan.
And
That's what I'm saying. It's like most people are smoking to get high.
but when you work in the industry and you understand why, there's so many variables on why that is. We worked in a shop that had both medical and recreational. The thing is far less people with medical cards shop on those shelves, so the products deteriorate, they look like shit, and then nobody ever wants to buy them. The other thing is that a lot of the medical vendors, there's just not enough of them to supply shelves. So the dispensaries won't even work with them. So they'll get a few products here and there, and the products will literally just sit on the shelves. Because you get more people from out of state that are actually purchasing. It's not Michigan consumers. Like if we were talking how many medical patients, if we were talking only straight Michigan market, I bet that number of medical would be a lot higher, because you're talking 80% of the people that shop in these dispensaries are from out of state anyways. They don't even have a Michigan.
I think that's every market in Michigan.
But they also have.
That's the border towns for sure, but not too far deep.
Yeah. We got them in. I mean,
I don't mean dispensary. I mean like caregiver too. Like a lot of these events, you see people from out of state. Like,
yes,
go look at the license plates.
Yes, you do. But what I'm saying is that there shouldn't be a differentiation between medical cannabis and recreational cannabis. It's medical's medical regardless.
No, you're right. The reason there's not a lot of medical is because of the arbitrary testing they do for medical and set the limits they set.
Well, the other
for
reason
microbes.
is a license that was only required for the first 2 years of the adult use program. That was a prerequisite license that every facility had to have before. If you wanted to be a dispensary, you had to have medical, right? You had to be a medical in order to do it. And so everybody just, and over time, once you stop being required, that little prereq.
They just never re-up that medical license and let it drop off.
I was at one of the dispensaries that did that. They didn't re-up.
The reason that happened was because the medical program was here before the recreational program existed.
Yes, exactly. But the licensors did not want to spend that additional license on a dispensary. You're like, fuck that. We're making way more money.
That's what they did. They crafted that law to give the people who came into the beginning of the market, the people who the commercial.
But even
market.
still, the testing was still required to be on the package. They were still requiring arbitrary THC limits on the package either way. So I mean, it still sticks.
They wanted to be able to give the customers some indication of how strong the product was. You have to have something.
But 2 years sitting on the shelf, now they'd have no idea. And so,
well, in fact, medical had a double the dose in terms of edibles. They can still, I think, go at 200 milligrams.
Yeah.
My point still remains that it's fine to have a dispensary if you want to have a liquor store or something like that, selling whatever products that they sell. But the other point is that they shouldn't make it so discerning for anybody to open up some sort of an actual medicinal apothecary type of place.
There should be if they're gonna regulate it, they need to regulate so many more license types. I want a license where I can grow 75 plants in the back like a micro, and like it's like $1,000 a year or something affordable, similar to like if I wanted to open up a gas station.
You get a hemp license, you can do that.
I don't want to grow hemp.
Oh.
You
guys want to pull up?
Thanks.
Should you want me to share this the November monthly report? Should we scan through it real quick?
Well, yeah, let's check it out. For Groli's monthly report.
Welcome.
Bring up to the big screen.
Cannabis Regulatory Agency.
We need the newsroom.
I'm sharing my screen. Just go ahead and share my screen, not my face. I know I'm beautiful and everything.
He's like, don't show people my face.
Okay, thank you. I don't like being the center of attention. No, let's see. So this is medical product sales. Oh wow, guys, look at that! Almost $4 million in November.
Nice.
Fascinating. Very good. Average.
Hope the schools are doing good. In the roads.
That's medical marijuana. We're direct to.
This is. I know. We'll get there. I just wanted to show you guys.
That's pretty good for medical.
That's what I'm saying.
Almost 400,000 plants harvested. All those
outdoor
medical plants.
Outdoor grow.
I recently.
We don't know
have
that.
a meeting every week about this, and I recently, like in the last 2 weeks, pulled up the last 4 or 5 months worth of data, and we kind of like graphed it to show the crazy peak in October. And one of the fun things is you can see that the processors are fully maxed out in capacity because the growers were holding on to over 500,000 pounds of fresh frozen, while the processors had a little over 300,000 pounds. The processors in November, you'll see, are holding basically within like 10,000 pounds, the same exact amount, but the growers now have about 200,000 less pounds. So does that mean either 200,000 pounds of fresh frozen was processed and everything's shifted through, or does that mean that growers weren't prepared and had to destroy 2,000 pounds of fresh frozen? Obviously, there was some work done in a month, but you can really start discerning that data once you start looking at the inventory and the sales and all that stuff. So let's just go ahead and skip through to recreational because that's really where the fun data is. I will show you quickly this upper lower. This is how they break down the sales. You got all you guys up north, everybody in the middle, southwest, east, and southeast, and then Wayne County on its own.
That's weird, but that makes sense.
It's they do about $1 million. They do about $1 million. I think this is in concentrates. If I think I'm pulling up the number specifically, it's like per month $1 million in Wayne, $6 million in east and southwest, and $4 million in southwest, and like $2 million in the upper.
But this is also reflective of population density and also density of licensures.
Yes, and if you pull up the map on the licenses, man, it's very. I mean, Warren has a crazy amount, but there's
there's a lot of red zones in Michigan. Most of the area is red zone.
And this is at the very bottom of this report, but this is why I bring this up, because I'll eventually we'll get there. But I think it's something like a 1 to 10 in terms of approval versus opt-in versus opt-out in Michigan. So there's something like 136 municipalities that have, in one way or another, doesn't mean across the board, doesn't mean they said yes to microbusinesses, doesn't mean they said yes to processors, doesn't mean they said yes to transporters. It just, in one way or another, they have opted in. There's 136 of them. There's over 1,300 municipalities that have completely opted out. Is it 1,800?
Well, it's 1,800 total in Michigan. So
there you go.
You know what I mean? Okay. 1,800 total in Michigan.
So that's almost 1,500 of them. So maybe 300 of them haven't said anything yet. So now we're in recreational. Adult use established is what it's called. AU.
Technically, if you don't say anything, then you're just kind of void on it. You're allowed to get a license in a place.
$250 million, baby.
Yeah. So in 1 month,
we did over
$256 million in sales.
And they're still crying about events that probably pull in, a fraction of that number. You know what I mean? Like
not even 0.1%.
456,000 fucking pounds of weed.
They're crying of liquid. Don't put a blurb on their map. That we're not on their radar, dude. Get the fuck out.
75,000 pounds in 1 month sold of just flour, average price of under $100 an ounce. Concentrate, 3,627 pounds. So multiply that by 454. That's how many grams there are.
I think gram that son bitch out.
Yep. Same with inhaled compound, vape cartridges. Keef is a funny one.
Infused edible is quite a bit.
Well, so that's the thing. Like, if you make a brownie, that's going to weigh a lot more than something else, right? And
so it's 24 mil total, which is what third? Oh, I guess inhaled compound. What's the difference between inhalable compound, concentrate?
I want to know what an infused non-edible liquid would even be used for.
Oh yeah. Oh well, like lotions.
Sure.
Oh.
How do you have fluid ounces sold, but then there's a total sales of 500, but you didn't actually sell any fluid ounces?
Well, wait, what? Which one?
Infused non-edible solid.
So you got pounds. It's a solid.
Oh, I see.
So these are liquids down here.
Infused edible has both.
Yeah, it can be both up here.
Oh,
right? So
like a drink.
Let's keep going through this. So sales to date, this is this year. So we're talking almost a full year. We've done almost 6.6 billion, over $6.6 billion.
Do you remember in like the 90s when we were like, oh, is the government going to have $1 billion? And now like a state is making that much with cannabis.
Imagining it.
Inflation's nuts.
So the number of plants flowering right now, or as of November 30th, there was
What?
640,000 plants flowering. We harvested over almost 400,000 plants in November. Most of those are probably done in October because there's
But
a
look
lot
how
of
many
them.
were destroyed. What the fuck? Almost 200,000.
Hey,
Yeah,
you wouldn't
people-
believe
people are
how
fucking up,
unsuccessful
bro.
some of these grows are, Russ.
that's
Yeah.
half. That's half of the plants that were.
So
Harvested.
just don't get it.
Let's see. Packages. This is not really all that interesting. Inventory. This is fun. Okay. So you know how I told you there is 300 at growers?
Yeah.
There was last month in October. As of October 31st, there was over 500,000. So those 200,000 pounds went somewhere.
Yeah.
I want to do some quick math for you guys, and I'm going to use a calculator so I don't embarrass myself. And I'm not going to share it. But if we take 200,000 pounds, we multiply that by 454 grams per pound, and then, which is over 90 million grams, and then we multiply that by a return of, let's call 4% on average. You know what? Screw that. This is commercial. Let's call it 3%. We're talking over 27 million grams of fresh frozen concentrate are either now entering the market, on hold in the market, or have been destroyed. I don't know.
That it could be on hold, waiting for test results.
Oh yeah, it could be, and I think
That's
we'll
true,
get to that.
but
So flour at
it usually only takes like a week or two.
let's
Yeah,
see,
but
fresh
there's
frozen
something-
nuts.
Turning a shit ton extra, like from an outdoor grow, it might take an extra. If it's extra.
So there you
volume.
go.
That's
There you
true.
go. Concentrates at processors.
Mm.
Let's do that math real quick, because that's a lot of pounds, right? 74,636 pounds.
Yeah.
400 times 454. That's almost 34 million grams
Of concentrate.
of fresh frozen concentrate. 34
What
million.
do you mean
grams.
fresh frozen concentrate? What does that mean?
Well, it's
We say,
well, no,
oh,
yeah,
you're
I guess
talking-
technically it's not from fresh frozen. You're right. I'm still thinking of the fresh frozen category above it. It's just concentrates.
Could you imagine
Yeah,
how many
it,
users that's going to take? Holy
Yeah.
fuck.
The man.
well, if it's concentrate,
Electric that's
fridges.
been in it.
So if we talk ship products, I love that micro businesses somehow have shipped products, even if it's less than a pound. Where did it go?
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, just
Lab,
shipped pounds.
maybe.
Processors, that makes sense because of
It's the testing.
solids and stuff.
think it's shipped to testing.
Yeah, but like I'm thinking
No, it
maybe
shouldn't-
some places
shouldn't
they'll
be-
come pick it up and they count it as shipping. don't
I
know.
mean, yeah, maybe. But if you, safety compliance is on here, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
What are they shipping? I don't know.
Yeah.
32,000, almost 33,000 transfers completed. That's just a fun nerd stat. Initial applications are interesting. Still 0 licenses denied in the month. 90 issues
Why do they
issued.
spell
at a rate
marijuana
of-
like that?
It's
Because we're
wait with the
backward.
J. It
No,
used to be an
that-
8.
Marijuana
and an
event organizer.
Yeah, so they got it both on here. They just missed this one obviously because it was an H up until like 2 or 3 years ago, I think, and then they
Well, I
like
don't even think
passed
they
a
should use
regulation to
marijuana
change it.
anyways.
I'm in agreement with you. At least
Well,
they
like,
changed it
that's
from
crazy.
Marijuana Regulatory Association to Cannabis Regulatory Association.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
They're all completely clueless trying to write our.
100%.
Yeah, instead of just hiring people that are part of it and integrating. But yeah.
Well, they
Renewal.
like, okay, so if you expand just out of Michigan and you make Michigan you just go to the macro, they want to go to Schedule 3, and which is going to make everybody, it's going to normalize it more, and I'm in agreement with more normalizing, but also going to get more people on board with the medical cannabis thing, which I'm also on board with. I also have a lot of things against the Schedule 3 thing. So this isn't me saying that I'm all for Schedule 3. So this is just me saying that it's going to open more people up to thinking that cannabis is medical. My thought is until they see what a dispensary is like. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where I was getting at with the oversupply of the market with all of these products. We'll get back to this listener in a second. I won't take too long on this, but the oversupply in the market with whatever this fresh frozen extract it's gone to, if it ends it up just sitting on the dispensary shelves, which eventually they're going to have enough data to know how many products do actually move, to say what
Yeah.
actually even needed in the market. Are we just going to leave this shit in cold storage? There's plenty of storage lockers. There's tons of businesses that are just storage lockers. So that may be a thing, but some of it might just get turned into edibles, and maybe not necessarily.
A lot of it is,
but a lot of the distillate is certainly, and all the outdoor is being. And actually, I was told my friends outdoor all got turned into flour, not distillate. Like their whole outdoor, like it's all flour. And so it's like, holy shit, a lot of that flour hitting the market is outdoor flour too. And so you normally don't see that on the packaging, but they're passing microbials. And I'm guessing that they're passing I don't know. I'm guessing they're passing.
Called a willow, and they just nuke it.
Preemptively making it. We'll get my buddy Elliot on here in a couple of weeks, and he'll tell us about what he's experienced through the PSI shenanigans type things. And but before that, my theory is, when you have somebody who's regardless of their age, let's just say that their perception of cannabis has always been on the fence or on the edge of they don't really know. Maybe they smoked a joint a long time ago. They weren't really feeling right about it, but they kind of want to toe their waters back into it because they feel like it's going to help them with a headache, or with their arthritis or something. They heard that it's now Schedule 3 or something like that. We want to know what it's good for. My quarrel in the whole thing is the products available to people looking for relief is very minimal in the average Apple store looking dispensary. First of all, you walk in, it's very bright lights. It's very, it's not pleasing to anybody searching healing. First of all, it's very, unpleasant. They're just, some of them are nice, and I'm not going to talk them all out like that. But when you go into some of these major ones, they're just really, they just push you along. And then a lot of the specialists that should be specialists, they're more part-time workers who are getting themselves through college in a lot of senses. They're not really people who have any type of interest in. Some of them are, and I'm not saying this as a generalized. I'm not saying this as a general. I'm more or less generalizing. I'm not saying this as an absolute, but this is in a lot of my experience. You know what I mean? A lot of it is because the turnover rate's so high and they have so many applicants. They fucking hire people. It's just like restaurants. Okay, it's the same mentality as.
You want pretty faces.
If you've worked in restaurants long enough, you have a few dedicated employees who love their job, love people, and love doing what they do, and then you have a it's the 80-20 rule. You got 20% of the people who are doing it good, and then 80% of them are just like, fucking get me the fuck out of here. Pay me my money, whatever. And so you get this, but the problem is you're dealing with sick people looking for assistance and relief, and they're not getting the best information to begin with. They maybe have a few things that they heard from some friends and the internet, and they really want to talk to a specialist about something, but then they get there. And then for me, I'm trying to look at this from a novice point of view. And if I walk into the store, just my general likes, and even as a pothead, I'm a stoner, you know what I mean? But I walk into a dispensary, I get turned off completely by dispensary because it's not appealing to what I think a dispensary should be. It's not an apothecary by any means, because when I think of cannabis, even though it does get me high and there is a room for that, I think of cannabis more of this holistic medicine. And if we go Schedule 3, that's really going to be considered. Except when you walk into a dispo in its flashy colors and branding, marketing, sugar packets everywhere. Just sugar everywhere. To me is just, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing.
The problem is 98% of the people are going there to get high.
You're a liquor store.
They're recreational.
I understand that, but not once it goes.
So you have to educate. That's what I'm saying. You got to start with the consumer and educate somehow.
Schedule 3, dude. Once it goes Schedule 3, you're gonna have way more.
But here's the thing, Rev. With Schedule 3, you get loans. And now you get loans, and you can open up an apothecary.
It is not 98% of the people. Once you start vending these events, it is not 98% of the people looking for recreational weed. You vend these events, it is most.
No. I don't think. Yeah, the events, but the you're talking about dispensaries. So
even in
dispensaries that are made right now, the stats are out there. It's 98%.
Also depends on what events you go to. honestly.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, there's definitely some trap events.
There's trap events, absolutely, but you get a very large number of patients coming out to these events, and
Yeah.
in the dispensaries, you get a very large number of patients coming to dispensaries, and it is more older people that go to dispensaries than it would be, you'd think, 21-year-olds. It
That's
is.
what I'm saying. With federal, you could get
84.
a load, and then you'll have maybe more diverse market of dispensaries / apothecaries.
It's probably more millennial and Gen X that go into dispensaries than it would be Gen Z.
There's probably
Um,
stats on that. I know, like in Florida, it's a lot of old people.
I don't know if really are the stats on this list at all.
We did go over demographics probably a month or two ago, but that was just in terms of a response to a survey, not actual demographics on purchasing. Those they don't release, as far as I'm aware.
But
Well, yeah, they don't ask you what.
the
Yeah.
overall reason for it going to where I was going is still remains that when you get all these people that are now interested in cannabis and they go into one of these stores that are marketed towards 21-year-olds, they're going to turn around and not be interested. You know, and then it's
Yeah.
affect a lot of people who could use help from cannabis, and they're going to try these gummies. They're going to try 10 milligram gummies. All it is THC and sugar and cellulose.
They all love them too, man. It's the older fellas.
Yeah.
Most people love it, and they will sell. That's fine, dude. I'm good, happy. If you love fucking edibles and gummies, eat
But
the
it's red. It's just like all right. So what are you gonna make instead of a gummy? Like
That's what I made last night.
you make the laws less.
What'd you make last night, Dang
You
Man?
make the laws less restrictive to allow the people that want to sell the correct products to sell the correct products, and then you inform the patients that these are the places that where you need to go. You don't go down to.
But that doesn't matter because we just established that they love the gummies. So I'm asking you, what would you
it's
replace the gummies with if you had a choice?
It's more than that. It's regulation right now. That's practically all they can make.
I'm still talking about the novice consumer who wants to ease their pain and sleep through the night, or they have cancer diagnosis or something like that. They don't love the gummies. Lots of people love the gummies, and they can shop the gummies all they want. What I'm talking about, dude, let's get on track here. Let's talk about this.
Well,
One specific person who wants to go into the store is going to go in there and get totally overwhelmed because it's all fucking gum. It's all the same product. What are they?
I know, but like, so what are some? So give me an example of what you would place something healthier that's still THC infusible.
RSO.
If you could change the laws.
RSO.
No, RSO, that's too strong. I'm talking about like a gummy that can be 10 milligrams.
I wouldn't go gummy. I would go fruit.
Okay, that's what I mean. Okay, so a natural infused fruit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how hard is it to already get America to eat good food? You're talking to a guy who doesn't even eat good food. So like, it's really hard. So now that's what I'm saying. You have to start at the education of the consumer and be like, you're eating trash. And now you're eating trash infused with trashy weed.
Listen, man.
I'm just trying to say a piece for 1 minute. That's all. You can go now.
I'm not talking about you, I, or the average consumer. I'm talking about someone who is sick, who has diabetes or something and does not want to eat fucking sugar, dude. Let's get on the same page. When you go into the dispensary, the entire shelf is sugar. There's nothing holistic within the dispensary except for the flour that's remediated with a willow machine on the shelf, or the oil tincture by Mary's or Tree Town that might sit over on the shelf. And those shelves is this big a product display on the entire.
Well, like Fergoli was saying, why is that, Fergoli? Why do you only have to make gummies?
It's all regulated that way, Red. And what you're saying, what it comes down to, is that type of patient doesn't belong in a dispensary. Bottom line.
That too. There needs it's what he said. They need to change the laws so there's more diverse marketing.
The problem is the average patient doesn't know that. The average patient thinks that because this market has been created, because there was a medical market beforehand, and because we have medical licenses, I would assume that they created this for medical patients and that they would have some sort of knowledge about the needs of the medical patients, and that there'd be some sort of connection between healing, wellness, and that, instead of bright lights, flashy colors, and sugar. You know, you guys follow.
There's no cash. There's no cash in there.
Grass.
They can't make a profit off of that.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's because
more people that want just what Baked was saying. More people that just want to go in there and smoke weed. And There is some patients out there, but they're going to the caregivers. They're going to the growing their own market. They're not going into the dispensary. There's a
It's
few.
like convincing. It's like convincing the mass that buys Budweiser to not do that.
I don't want to convince anybody to do anything. I want to stop manipulating the consumers.
Yeah, I agree. There should be more
consumers,
more options, more healthy options, Red.
Like for girl, you were so like Winewood, they couldn't make chocolate infused stuff right now. It has to be gummy.
I don't know that
They couldn't make a Rice Krispie.
There's, I mean, I could pull up the regulations, the memo on the regulations for edibles, but essentially you can't have anything that's a baked good. You can't have anything that has
it has to be shelf stable for one time.
It can't have a best by date. It has to have an expiration date. I think I'm saying that right.
Yes,
not the other way around. And it has to be homogenized to the point that it's testable at random, so it has to be within that
plus so they really limit
and so to even think about creating a artsy no bake healthy granola type bar that's high in protein and everything, and has maybe 200 milligrams of CBD, 100 milligrams of THC, like 25 milligrams of CBG, and whatever else is in it.
My question is though, no, go ahead. Finish your thing. Go ahead.
The second you put one extra dried banana chip in there, and it throws the weight off more than 10%, and then that ratio of THC per gram is off enough, you're no longer allowed to make that.
So they come in and test the chunk, and it's off, and
I mean,
who wants to risk
like they might
when
test,
you can just make I get what you're saying.
They might test what 75 to 100 grams out of 50 pound batch of the same strain, right? They have to do the same thing when it comes to concentrates. They have to do the same thing when it comes to edibles. It has to be homogenized, right? And so it's really easy to homogenize something like a liquid gelatin based super sugar melted down with some flavors and some THC or some distillate that's just been spun and mixed over and over again, and then you pour it into molds that are the perfect size and repeatable to the same gram to the 10th of the gram over and over and over again, and then you pop 20 of those in a pack to homogenize the pack a little bit even more. And it's just like, that's an easy way to do it, to create a craft product and put that on a shelf and make thousands. Make it
standardized where it's testable.
I mean, my peppermint bark, man. I'm pretty confident that that's homogenized enough because it's chocolate. It's pretty easy to homogenize chocolate, guys. But would it pass that level of standardized testing? I don't know. I guess I gotta go pay $600 to figure it out. But
you got me thinking. Could I infuse Hershey's chocolate? Just melt it down.
Very easily, very easily.
I use the brand
I'll sell it because they'll sue me, but just for myself.
Sucks.
So what you do, Big?
I love Hershey chocolate.
So you know how to make, how you make infused oil, right?
Yeah.
So do infused coconut or MCT probably be better.
That's what I usually use.
Okay, infuse some MCT oil and then take your chocolate and melt it on a double boiler, and then just mix in your
mix it.
Yeah, mix it right in. And then if you want to get even more fancy, you can do like a binding agent like sunflower lecithin or something.
Yeah. I have some that I think for edible.
I just used some yesterday.
What I guess I'm getting at is that there's in my mind there's kind of two ways to look at the cannabis industry. There's this one way is looking at cannabis as, let's just take cannabis, let's look at it like a buffalo and use as much of the buffalo as we can, right? Which I understand, let's not be wasteful. I like that idea. Except most corporations, their idea is to make money, so they try to diversify product lines, and the best way to do that right now is by making as many products as they can. Well, there's only so many different products you can make out of the flower, only so many different products you can make out of the hash or anything like that. The biggest variety of stuff you can make is the edible lines. And so, which is absolutely fine. But where I see the entire world of edible goes is it's all these different food. I mean, basically it's foods, you know what I mean? So it's food infused with weed that you might love to eat, but you can't eat too much of it because you're going to get uncomfortably high. You know what I mean? So you end up in this paradox where, like, I can't even eat my whole cake, which might be good for some people who, you know, shouldn't eat the whole cake, but you know what I mean? So, like, that's not an issue either for me, but it's a paradox of, why not just take some tincture or something and then eat yourself a fucking cake? You want to eat a whole cake? Go eat a whole cake and then take some. So anyways, either way, I look at it as commoditizing cannabis, saying, what can we just make whatever out? Because what I saw was once CBD dropped, they commoditized the shit out of CBD soda, CBD cheeseburgers. Like, is it really necessary to have a CBD cheeseburger? At what point are we counteracting the health effects of cannabis? And if you're not looking for health effects, that's fine. I don't even want to convince you to look into the health effects, but I don't want to overshadow the health effects, because that's kind of what I think is happening. When you start saying there's a CBD cheeseburger, that begins to almost dumbify the fact that CBD has great healing potential. You know what I mean? So once you bring somebody into an overwhelming display of all of these different packages, to me,
because of the cheese, you mean, is unhealthy, so you're like negating it?
Finish my point, man, for 1 minute, please. For 1 minute, because you throw me off a lot. Give me a second. So my brother, for example, he's an objectivist. He's a skeptic, highly skeptic about everything. He's not into cannabis. He doesn't believe in it. If he walked into a dispensary, he would think that the medical aspect of cannabis is an absolute joke. You mean to tell me all these sugar packets heal people? Ha ha ha, fuck that. I'm out of here. That's what a realist would do. Tell me I'm wrong. I mean, that's what most of them would do. So what I think that it does, the way that the current system is set up, whether it's the way that the regulators have set it up, which is a part of it, but it's also the way that corporations just want to commoditize it and market it. They want to market it to the youth. They want to market it and make it fun and happy, which is totally fine too. But you're overshadowing the actual importance of cannabis, because I'm in cannabis because my cousin had brain cancer at the age of 18 years old, 16 years old, died at 18 years old. And since I was 12 years old, I've seen Prop 215 in cancer patients and people get healed from cannabis, remove their tumors, remove their cancer, go into remission and all this other stuff. You can't just overshadow that, because once we go Schedule 3 and people are actually going to, now people are going to go, oh, it's not Schedule 1. So let me kind of think about this. If that's my brother who might actually think, because, he's going to start considering CBD or something for his epilepsy. I don't know. Maybe that's something he might want to do. He's still not into it because he's going to go into a dispensary and go, what, you tell me all these candies are going to fix my epilepsy? Fuck off. No. And that's what he's going to say. Nobody's going to guide him over the tinctures, and that's kind of where my quarrel is with the whole thing. And it really has nothing to do with the way that the market's designed. It has everything to do with the way that the market's designed, has everything to do with the way that the corporations just want to commoditize everything. And that the state itself initially built the entire thing off of a medical back. And that's the whole point, is that they built up this huge, robust medical industry for patients who need cannabis and rely on cannabis. And some of them do want to eat junk food and get high. And that's totally fine, dude. Those people are out there too. And that's absolutely fine. But I think that the novice consumer trying to get into this and want to take it seriously, a lot of the products on the shelf, I can't even take seriously as a stoner. How can they take it seriously as somebody who's a serious person? You know what I mean? So that's all I have to say about it.
I agree with what you're saying, Red. But at the same time, I've been in the industry, even on the commercial side, and then tracking the numbers, like what Rolly's bringing up. And it's like the public or the numbers don't support the need on the medical side. There's less and less companies every single year renewing their medical licenses. There's less and less patients renewing their medical cards.
That is, again, not where I'm going with that. It has nothing to do with
I understand what you're saying, and I know, but I'm just saying I think that's a huge part of why
it's arbitrary that there's a dividing line between medical and recreational in the first place. What I'm saying is that I think that the products that are sold, because, dude, the products on the medical side are the same products as on the recreational side. Same packaging. It's a True North package in medical. It's a True North package on.
But they're not the same. But they're not the same. They're held to different degrees as far as the
higher milligram. You might get a 200 milligram package, but it's still the same amount.
Tested differently.
Same amount of. It's still the same store. You know what I mean? It's still the same shadow of this is what cannabis is. I was expecting there to be, somebody, holding a candle and showing me the way. You know what I mean? And it's not like that. It's more like consume, rather than let's give you bucks. That's what it used to be. That's what it used to be during the days of co-ops. It was let's go in here and you'd sit down with a specialist. You'd sit down with a one-on-one at a table with 6 jars in front of you and never edibles. Like they might have some like home baked goods and stuff like that, but it was tinctures, oils. They might have hash. They might have some stuff. The original dispensary system was not the way that it is right now. And it's
the edibles, I think,
over.
I mean, proper baked goods and stuff don't keep.
The thing is the market.
Some place to put that trashy weed.
It's good baked goods. There's nothing wrong.
And
with
the market's driven by demand. It's like what the customers are buying. That's why the heavy medical, like the RSO and tinctures, even they get like you said it perfectly. They get this much fucking space because that's how much demand there is for it. They're not people aren't going in the dispos for that. They're going into to get the cheapest quality or whatever it is. That's not the spot they're going for medicine. That's not being treated the same way.
There's also there's supply and demand, but there's also forced supply. You know what I mean? Do you understand? Like forcing supply.
This is your only choices. You have to pick one kind of a thing.
Yeah, like you force supply to increase the demand on that supply. Like there's so much supply of something that you almost need to over market it to get it to like they throw specials on it and they just force people to buy it and they sell the shit out of it. And like that's why gummies are so cheap right now. You can get a pack of them for nothing. And I mean gummies existed forever. Lollipops were the first medical thing. Those were sugar. Lollipops always existed. Those are the original ways that eating RSO sucks. Capsules like that.
Because a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, Red, man.
I guess fucking Mary Poppins.
Sadly, the world's driven by the dollar.
And I mean, that's more what it is baked is the by the dollar.
That's unfortunate, but
and it's because there's a high ROI when you sell a baked good. Is a high ROI when you turn distillate. Dude, if you can at least when it first opened up and they were selling $50, $40 fucking edibles. Think about that. That's like what $3 distillate and like $2 worth of pancake mix, and you made yourself $1 fucking. Think about the overhead on that. You know what I mean? So I mean,
and the distillate keeps too. So if it doesn't sell today, you can try again next week or next month on the same damn gross ass old now product.
Distillate does degrade.
And sure, let the market decide. That's fine, but let's also allow there to at least exist those of us that want to create some sort of a market for the people that are looking for a less flashy type of store. You know what I mean? Something.
But the problem with that is you're only going to need like 5 stores in Michigan for that.
Maybe.
Because according to the data, that's the thing. Unless your theory is, like the market is so shitty that there's so many people that can't find a good place to get medicinal shit that
is though
they're just not participating.
Those might be
because there's only like 2% medical.
Like, okay, so my theory is if you build it, they will come, right? And so it may work with just 5, but if you allow 50 to flourish, people are going to check them out and they're going to see the difference between.
But 50 can't flourish mathematically.
They could if
according to the data.
If the data shifts because of those 50 flourishing stores.
Because you educate the consumers.
Right, dude. There's so many variables we haven't even tapped into yet with these
variables. You say?
Yes, I shall. because
Friday nights.
Because right now all of everything is arbitrary. Like the entire system's written by people who don't know anything about cannabis, and so that's being passed on to the consumer. wait until the few of us that actually get a chance to do things right are out there getting the information on people like we are, because it's already going like right
I
now.
hope so.
Well,
Just look at Spartan's shirt.
the numbers that Frigrola is showing still show that there's a lot of movement and traction. But if you look at what's actually happening, you show companies going into receivership and dropping off the map left and right, which only tells me that the consumers are starting to catch on and they are starting to find different markets to get their cannabis. And aside from competition and everybody bottoming each other out, I think that there's also, you drive by some of these dispensaries, there's no cars in the parking lot. Most of the times of the day, they're empty. There might be 1 or 2 cars there, but they were booming a long time ago.
They all deliver.
Well,
Check on Fridays.
Oh, they all do deliver.
Also, with those numbers from working in a dispensary, we told the medical patients to go to recreational.
Yeah.
And they got the same discount. We gave them the same percentage
because
off.
we still get
it didn't matter. We had better products. We had better stuff on the
That's a good point,
side.
Becca.
So we pushed people there no matter what. Cheaper stuff.
Yep.
All these factors really play into it.
That's super common in a lot of the rec dispensaries, and that's another way to kill the med market.
They were intentionally wanting to kill the medical side of. They just didn't want to license. It's just like,
why pay for 2 licenses? It doesn't make sense. It's a dumb
flour when we opened, and it stayed on the shelf until I left, and it was brown. Dude, in the medical
we were there
side,
for 2 years.
I would not even take people down there. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, and that's a lot of it too. The products are so old. You're like, a lot of it was like, as somebody who wants you to keep coming back for sales. And personally, I don't even think it should have mattered. I just have integrity for a job. I wasn't paid on commission or anything like that. Like, this is my advice to these store owners: is pay your staff on commission, and they'll actually sell your products. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to sell people what I think is going to help them, and it might not be the most expensive product. But if you pay somebody on commission, you might try to figure out a way to get somebody to stack up and double, triple sell them on the product that will help them to make it the most expensive product. You know what I mean? Rather than just, all right, this is going to help you. I'll see you next week. You know what I mean? I'll sell you fucking 6 of them. You know what I mean? If it's going to help you, I'll figure out a way to hook you up this week. Sell them to all your friends. You know what I mean?
Well, it's why the events that we do, why those are so important, because more and more people, I think, are coming from the dispensary market and hearing about events like at the Fledge or, the different events all over, and are learning from farmers, from, the people making the products, their processes, how fresh it is, like the difference in terpenes, all that stuff needs to be taught. And it's like intentionally not taught when people go into dispensaries, because they need to be in and out in a couple minutes. Like, that is something that they do. They'll like give you a couple minutes that you can be with the customer and move on. The customer starts asking questions, and if that bud tender is not informed, they give some random ass answer that really might be incorrect. Like, they do. They did try to teach.
The person that opened that dispensary is opening it for one reason: to make money. So they don't give a shit. So you have to change the laws so that people opening these are the ones that actually care. Like, like you said, open an actual apothecary style place. But
and if they allowed more green zones, that could potentially.
I think that's a big thing that you just read is the green zone thing. You open more green zones, that therefore reduces the value of the current green zones, which are way inflated.
Right.
And then now people can maybe afford a spot where they're around.
And they're clusters. They're absolutely.
That's a huge thing.
But to open more green zones is you have to change the people that are enforcing it not being green. So whatever your committee is, maybe they've passed it not knowing what the fuck they passed, because there's a lot of jurisdictions that just follow others.
Yeah.
So you could walk into a meeting, or you could walk into a zoning commission and say, look, I want to talk to you about your whatever you have drafted, whatever it is. It's probably some kind of zoning thing. But or maybe it's an ordinance. What's your ordinance on cannabis cultivation in this area? And have a conversation with that person. Why do we have this, and what's behind this? Because this goes against the law. This can be challenged in court of law. Why would you have this? You might be able to change somebody's mind without much effort other than just a conversation.
Knowledge is key.
Depending on where you're at, especially if it's after an election year where people's seats have changed. You know, you
Well,
could have a random person.
then you have to change the testing laws for the edibles, for like the arbitrary microbe count.
What's also crazy is that if you're even thinking about getting into this as like a small business, you're looked at as like absolutely insane because of the so high. You know what I mean?
Well, you first off, you don't get loans in a world of loans.
Right.
So like, but hopefully with federal Schedule 3, you might be able to get loans. I would think. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, there's going to be less investors jumping in with the market the way it is right now, right?
Well, it's
just passing the Banking Act along.
Don't forget Ethereum's on the rise.
It was a lot easier to write a business plan with 3,600 a pound numbers rather than 500 a pound numbers. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people wrote business plans at 3,600 a pound and got good investments, and then they fucking lost their ass now that it would drop down to 500 a pound.
Yeah, that's actually right around $1 a gram. Right around $1 a gram. Let's say if you're not planning $1 a gram, then you're probably going to fail it.
And I mean, a lot of people did base it around that because they knew that the oversupply would get you there, just like it happened in Oregon and Washington and California, and it happened everywhere else. And they knew it was going to happen here, and it inevitably did. But it's creeping back up. But still, that's 8% inflation this year. I mean, it's bound to creep back up eventually with this shit. But the way that it could go is allowing a few more. I just keep saying in the townships that voted yes for Prop 1, if the individual township, because we have a statewide vote that voted in favor of Prop 1, but each township has their independent votes. And so my township was 60%. Your township might have been 70%. Your township might have been 40%. And if your township was 40%, well, keep it a fucking red zone. You have every right to. But if your township was 60%, then they should at least allow a transport. They should allow some. They should have. They should at least allow a conversation with a business owner to come in and open up some license type. You should allow a license type. You know what I mean? Maybe that's a micro business. Maybe it's a class A. Maybe it's maybe you want the loitering and you want the dispensaries. You know what I mean? You fucks. It's not what's going on. Like they're also scared of all of these Swisher Sweet rappers in the street. I don't know. They're all over the place anyways. You're not going to.
Well, that's why you have to go and get a conversation and try to dig that information up and have that conversation with these officials. Be like, look, why is this ordinance in place? For what reason? And see what it is they're worried about. And then you just go about proving that wrong. Like that is not a thing. Look at, here's these stats from Michigan. Here's these stats from Colorado. Here's these stats from California. None of those things happen. Can we move on? You just have to chip away at it. It's not fun, that's for sure. But a lot of people, because of that, because of how uncomfortable and how not fun it is, people don't do it. And so it's never challenged and it never gets changed.
Well, if you're in our position, if you start going down to the township and knocking around down there, they're going to send an inspector by your commercial property. You know what I mean?
And they might not. I mean, glory favors the bold.
Yeah, I know
that. It doesn't favor the people who are not bold.
No, I do. I do know that. I do know.
Glory favors the bold.
I just don't think that it should even come down to that. I think that in the sake,
I absolutely agree. I think it's horseshit that it has to come to that.
Voted in law that we all enacted that we should have at least had license types in all communities. I think it's ridiculous that it's not allowed, or that townships are allowed to opt out, even though the people.
There's even teeth in the regulation to try to discourage it by giving you get a piece of the pie if you opt in, and so it's still built into the law to try to get that money incentive, and they're still ignorant. It might be they're ignorant of that. Maybe they don't even know of it. Some of these places.
I think where that other bit of the incentive is ignored is because, from my understanding, you have to have a point of sale in order to get that kickback at the end of the year. You have to have either a dispensary or a micro business where cannabis is sold and taxed at the consumer level. In order for those taxes,
the law doesn't say anything about taxes or any of that. It just says it actually specifically lists the license types, and it is micro business and the
dispensary
and the dispos. But I'm not sure if grows. I don't think grows are included.
I don't think so either. And I think that that's one of the reasons that there's no incentive for a township to just opt in for a grow op. They're like, well, we're not going to get kickback for the grow op. We're only going to get kickback. I honestly,
it'd only be a micro. Yep.
Most townships don't even know probably at all. They're
Uninformed.
they're so uninformed. They don't understand.
You're right. Yeah.
They don't know the language. Their lawyers are told to read the language and then interpret it to them. So,
and a lot of these ordinances have been put in place long enough ago to where the people who originally wrote it aren't even in place anymore. They're not even the ordinance officer anymore.
Oh, you're right too. Yeah, it's pretty much our township. We need to go into ours and get talking with them, but that's a whole another can of worms. They come snooping around our property, so it's gonna happen. Really sooner or later, but we just gotta figure out when the time is. The time
get your Ring door cam so you get the notification.
Well, the time is when you have enough money to pay the fines. That's the time. So
or a lawyer, one or the other.
Yeah, that's just kind of where we need to get first.
But that's when we have the community. We reach out to this awesome.
I thought we had them.
Reach out to this awesome cannabis community.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
We'll crowdfund a lawyer if we need to. But we'll
Cheese puff.
But I think that's what's needed for
Ice cream,
especially for some of these where we are locally is a
barbecue.
It's a lake. It is. It's a barbecue neighborhood. It's a barbecue neighborhood.
You smell that? I smell barbecue.
Is it a fart?
No.
No, we only got 9 minutes to talk about food.
Oh, we went 9 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry.
We were just fucking around in chat.
The
3D Doritos.
soup.
Oh, I miss them.
Only soup. But yeah, like I think that to get the older generation on board
Rice Krispies
themselves, I just want to see old people help themselves. I want to see them quit going, "Hey, fucking smoking the weed." I want them to eat the weed and have a good night's sleep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and if it's a gummy they want, it's a gummy they want, and that's
Some of the old people in my dad's neighborhood though, it's a fun thing. It is what it is for sleep and everything, but they like the fact that it's a gummy or it's this or that, and it's like
I'm glad they get the experience.
I'm glad you're having fun, but like
calm down.
Well, it's like red. It's like there's a lot better options out there. But have fun with it now and make your way to the good stuff, hopefully.
Well, that's like, I mean, you can get there with any product.
But it's like you said, how much sugar can 67-year-olds should be taking? So they can't be eating a lot.
And a lot of them don't want a lot. You talk
and exactly. Like my mom doesn't like sugar.
Confused. They're like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to. I can't have all these treats. How am I supposed to do it? And I walk them over to the oils, and they're like, you don't got anything more flavorful than that? And like, oh man, I wish I did. Like this sucks, right? Like this is what's popular. So we've commoditized.
Have you ever had puppy chow?
Yeah.
I would love to make weed infused puppy chow and somehow do the math.
And I'm sure that
so good.
It might be out there. It can't be that difficult.
I got some coming in the mail.
To like make it a product, but like, like to be able to have more small batch type products to where you can have something that has a higher value of, like, you're not so focused on ROI and keeping the cost of what you're using. The reason gummies are used is because you're using pectin, sugar, and food coloring and a little flavoring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very cheap.
Well, cheap distillate.
Cheap ingredients, high overhead.
Well, here's the thing, Red, though. You'd have to design a market that was more catered to, like, how fish and butchers and I don't know what other food people I can analogize it to, but because like a muffin, I love chocolate chip infused muffins, but they're only going to sit on your shelf for 7 days. So can the average small business afford to lose a pan due to like we didn't sell them and I got to dump these?
And that will happen.
Or feed them to your chickens or whatever somebody might have.
You do it once or twice and then you get your numbers and you like we only.
That's true.
We don't oversupply what we bring. We make 5 pre-rolls. We don't make 10 because we know we'll sell the other 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to go back and say, do not feed infused food to your chickens.
Yeah, don't feed that.
Don't do that.
Well, maybe you want infused eggs.
But if you can like not oversupply and you're able to if you can
Tricking people.
sell a little bit of a better product, the market for it's there, and like you clearly see it in places like Ann Arbor, right, where everything you can sell almost anything that's bougie or higher end it sells here in Ann Arbor, and it probably sells in the Bloomfield Hills area, and any of these other places. You go to Northern Michigan, Traverse City, it'll probably sell up there. But I'll tell you what, there's also a Starbucks in every fucking city and every Target, everywhere. Doesn't matter the demographic. There's a Starbucks, and Starbucks was that higher end coffee spot at one time. Remember that. And now I'm not comparing Starbucks to Kraft or them selling out. But what I'm saying is that even though there's a higher priced entity, it's still the most popular one. So people will pay more for what is even a perceived better product. And I'm doing air quotes for the listener.
Well, that's
That's a perceived better product. But if you're actually quantitatively a better product, there are buyers. There are lots of buyers, and they're even in the boonies and the sticks. They're out there. They're looking for.
If you're the bougie option, and you're $5, maybe $10 craziness at the most, you're still way more available to way more people than
absolutely
$50 or $100 or whatever.
And the market is there. The market just needs to know that you exist in a sense, and they need to understand what they are actually getting because they're using their money value. It's a value thing. Like
I'm getting Chex Mix, powdered sugar, chocolate, and peanut butter.
And if you tell people that you used organic rice checks, right, and you call
that'd be sick if they sold that,
and you use organic powdered
although
sugar,
it is gluten free,
Guatemalan chocolate, you can up your value a lot, even though it's going to cost a lot more. It will up your value.
Yeah, it might be even better tasting. You never know. Although I love my Jif, I probably wouldn't substitute Jif.
Choosy moms, choose Jif.
Choosy moms, choose Jif.
Juicy moms.
Choosy bakes, choose Jif.
Well,
although I think I figured out during that peanut butter crisis, they called it back. It was the Great Peanut Butter Crisis like a year ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, you probably didn't affect everyone, but
it affected us. Thanks.
I think like.
Susan hooked me up with a gigantic thing of
what
peanut
are the
butter.
other two brands? Skip.
Skippy.
And Peter Pan. I like Skippy, but I think it's because it's got 10 more milligrams of salt.
And what's funny is that those ones you'll see on the shelf, and they'll be in abundance, right? But there's also a jar of peanut butter that's
Captain Crunch,
a little bit higher, and it's probably 3 times the price, but it's in a far fewer.
Whoa!
But it's still up on the shelf, and somebody's gonna walk by that day.
It's got like a thing of oil that's separated.
Yes, exactly.
And so you got peanuts in
real
it.
Peanut butter, real peanut, and it might cost a little bit more money for the manufacturer to.
It's soupy and flows through your bread.
Yep, they'll make their money back in return.
Good shit.
I think that there's a value in having a smaller scale and utilizing quality. And yeah, man.
It is good, but
it's just not. You're just not going to capture 90% of the market. You know what I mean? But do you need 90% of the market to sustain? It all depends on your scale, I suppose.
There's there's consumers at every level, for sure.
Yeah, they're absolutely. And yeah, my main bullet points was just not to overshadow the potential of cannabis for those that need it medicinally. You know, that's my main point.
And that's what I really hope and push for, and a lot of my drive is just to try to free knowledge for people to home grow and grow it themselves, because I think that's honestly the best option for 90% of the people out there, especially for medicinal purposes.
While you're educating people, you might as well tell them, hey, and you can grow all this yourself and kind of make it yourself in so many ways.
We would never have had a taste for higher end food if we didn't grow our own food. You have your own shit to see where quality's actually at, because once you see something fresh on the vine, cannabis, tomatoes, whatever it might be,
I gotta pre-order my trees.
I don't want to say I despise grocery stores and dispensaries, but I almost don't like going into them. You know what I mean? I'd much prefer to just shop my own food pantry, backyard, or grow room. It's far more quality there, more healthy.
So I have to go to the grocery store.
So Becca goes to the grocery store. Fair enough.
That's how you end up with Reese's, and you're thankful for that.
I look at those things every single time I'm at the store. Like, should I get one?
They put them there for that reason. It's bullshit.
I
Like
know
it's
It's like
creeping on her.
blenders.
it's very
She's
weird.
creeping
They
on the
just
Reese's. She's over there smelling them in the
look up.
corner.
Is it? Am I at the chocolate milk aisle?
I've certainly like touched a shaped one for sure before. I was like, oh, it's a pumpkin.
Ooh, the Christmas tree should be coming out. Those are good.
Best.
Oh, the little Debbie Christmas trees. All right, well,
Those
I'm
are
gonna go
good.
eat something. Yeah.
Eat some little
Everybody, thanks for hanging. Chat. Have a good night. See you tomorrow on the late sesh.
Debbie.